Hi, guys, and welcome to the TrainRight podcast. Today's guest, we're speaking with St Pierre. Adam is a coach with CTS also, and he is my coach. So a little bit about Adam. Adam started running on the middle school track team in New Hampshire. He didn't know how big of a part of life running would become. He just knew that his dad held the school record for the decathlon and that he wanted to break it. In high school, he took up cross-country skiing as a way to get in better shape for track season, and he went to Colby College in Maine, expecting to play soccer and run track, but he decided to go with cross-country skiing as his main sport. He raced collegiately for 4 years while getting his degree in physics and biochemistry, and then moved on to earn a master's degree in kinesiology and exercise science from the University of New Hampshire. While working towards his degree, he worked as an assistant coach for Budwin's college ski team. He immediately realized that he's a better coach than an athlete, and he's been a coach ever since. In 2006, he moved to Boulder and started coaching at the Boulder Nordic Junior Racing Team. And he worked as an exercise physiologist, a running biomechanist, and a coach at the Boulder Center for Sports Medicine. He left Boulder Center for Sports Medicine in 2014 to pursue coaching full-time, and he's been with CTS since 2017. In addition to his coaching, Adam has raced many races, from half marathon distance to 100 milers. And of course, he's fallen back in love with running again, and he doesn't just ski. But he loves spending long days on the trails and in the mountains, and accessing places that he can't get by car or by bike. He loves standing on mountaintops, traveling fast and light in the wilderness on his own 2 feet, and he now currently lives in Boulder with his wife and 2 young kids and 2 old dogs. I'm super excited to talk to Adam. I obviously talk with him on a daily basis since he's my coach. But in this episode, I wanted to give you guys an insight into what it's like with a coach-athlete relationship, and to give you maybe a little bit more insight about the training of an elite athlete, and how we've learned from one another over the past couple of years that we've been working together. And we get into some banter, but I think there's a lot to learn from Adam, and I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Okay, well, welcome to the TrainRight podcast, Adam. So happy to have you on here.
Thanks for having me on, Hillary. It's an honor.
Oh, I know. It's just another excuse to get to talk to you. I already talked to you so much. If those of you who don't know, Adam St Pierre is my coach. He's also a coach at CTS. Wonderful human being. Adam, how long have I known you?
Oh God, it's probably been, like 5 years? I think, it was 2014 when I did my 24 hours of Sanitas. And I think we had met, through like RMR group runs earlier that year.
Okay. So actually I'm going to tell the perspective of the story of how I first met you. And then you can tell maybe your perspective.
Oh no, I don't want you to tell.
Yeah, I remember. So the first time I met Adam St Pierre, I was new to trail running. This was in 2014. This was like my first season of trail running. I was running my first 50-mile race, and I was in Bighorn, Wyoming, running the Bighorn 50. And I'm camping on the lawn outside of the rec center in Dayton. So was Adam, and we're like, I'm with my then boyfriend at the time, and we're like cooking dinner, and so then we're like talking to one another. Adam's probably like drinking a beer, and like small talking, and then Adam's like, oh yeah, so what's your goal for the race? And I'm like, I'm not sure, I just want to have fun. Like, my boyfriend says I could probably run about 9 hours if I have a good race. And Adam looks at me like, you look at me like so matter of fact, and you're just like, that's the course record, right? Like, you look at me like you're an idiot. Like, what is she thinking? And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. That's just what he said. Like, haha, like, okay, what's your goal? And then like, you say like super matter of fact, you're like, I know I can run like this, and this. Like, you had your like splits all like written down, and like you had your wings on your ultra shoes.
I don't recall this interaction, but it sounds likely.
Yeah, exactly. And so I know. But so then fast forward to the next day, the next morning, race morning. And, I see you with your like, your ultra shoes and your cool little wings coming off. I'm just like, this guy seems business. I was just like scared out of my mind because I didn't know what happened after mile, 30. I'd never run 50 miles before. And so you had this goal of running like sub 8, I think. Like you wanted to win the men's race. Like you were trying to go for a sub 8 time, sub 8 hour time. Yeah. And you were like gung ho about this, but then on the race day, like I remember like we descend into Dayton because we start up high in the mountains and we go down to Dayton and it's like 105 degrees. Like my stomach starts going, I'm like bonking out of my mind, but somehow I managed to like not stop running, like finish the race. And I crossed the finish line first. I run it in like 8 hours and 52 minutes. I break the course record. And then I look in the finishing chute and there you are.
You were gaining on me.
And I was like, and you were like, still like, looked like you had just recently finished. I was just like, Adam, like what? And in my mind, I was only like 30 seconds behind you, but maybe it was more.
I think it was like 3 minutes. Still not a whole lot. I blew up pretty hard with bilateral hamstring cramps and walked it in from 45.
So I was gaining on you on that stinking 5-mile flat road.
I still think had I saw you in the rear view, I could have run, but I didn't want to.
But that was the beginning of our friendship. And then from then I joined you for this mountain in Boulder, Colorado, Sanitas Repeats. Adam, you're obsessed with it. It's like
it's
1,300 foot mountain. That's just like,
It's a little climb. It's like a 40-minute round trip. I like to do laps of it.
Yeah, you had the split sheet again. It was great. But like, that was when
we were friends, kind of from that point, and did some fun mountain runs. That was when I was just kind of starting coaching.
Yep.
And I kind of wanted to coach you, but I also wasn't in a financial position to offer free coaching at that time.
And I really, like I said, I had no idea what, I really had no idea what I was capable of, but I also just like had no idea what trail running was. And that was so cool about our relationship that like we shared so many runs. I think at that time I was kind of in the process of moving to Boulder, but I would like drive up to Boulder 3 or 4 times a week and we'd run at like 5 a.m. First of all, it was wonderful because no one else wanted to run that early. And then we would just banter about science. I mean, you have your background. Remind me exactly what your master's is in.
My master's is in kinesiology, exercise science, but my undergrad is in physics and biochemistry. Yeah. And I think we're both a little bit kind of science nerds. So yeah, we always enjoyed bantering. And I think sometimes you like to be a little contrarian. So we have some spirited debates.
Oh, I never had an opinion in my life. I don't know what you're talking about, Adam. No, I'm very opinionated, and oftentimes it's not popular belief.
I don't know about that. I think you have opinions. I have opinions, but both of us are willing to change our opinions in the presence of new information. Exactly.
But I love this because we actually didn't start working together until 2 years ago.
Until you fell off that cliff.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah, that whole thing. What was it 2017?
2017, yep.
Yeah, it was like November 2017, and you were still on like your scooter and had casts all over, and pretty early in the rehab process when we met for coffee.
Yep, at Cafe Soleil.
Yeah, so that was the start of our coaching relationship, but our friendship kind of predates that.
Yeah. But I think that's why it was so special is because like I remember meeting with you and like I was so low at that point and like, still didn't really know if I could get back to running because I've never dealt with injuries like this big before. And
how many people have goat?
And I mean, I don't know. I guess not many, but I just remember sitting down at that coffee shop and like after talking with you, you just like reignited my belief again. I was like, yeah, I can do this. I have a team of people. I have people that care about me. Like, let's go. And then you knew my physical therapist over at Revo Sports Performance. And I remember even like, you would even like take me there some days, like early on in my recovery. Yeah, I know, I couldn't drive.
my like coaching and physiology background, I've done a lot of running biomechanics work. I worked hand in hand with a lot of PTs. So I think I have sort of a niche for working with athletes who are frequently injured or who are recovering from injury. I have a pretty good understanding of biomechanics and the rehab process. So I think, at that time, you and I were a particularly good fit.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think I had worked with some other pretty serious injuries, but you may have been the coup de grace.
Oh, so glad that I have that crown. But no,
I mean, athlete I've ever worked with.
Oh, thank you. But no, I remember that it was just like, I remember because you work with a Nordic ski team, and I know that you had typically you'd brought them in to this Revo Sports and Performance Center. You'd like given them, you'd like test their lactate threshold, and you like, use these kids for like, as your science experiments, I think. But it's so cool because like you're involved in like that hands-on, like where the science meets the athlete, and
where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. And I think it was really useful.
I think we're lucky in Boulder too to have just a network of medical professionals, physical therapists, massage therapists, acupuncturists, chiropractors, coaches, athletes. It's a supportive environment where you can have a network, have a team. So like, I talk to your physical therapist a couple times a week to make sure like, hey, what can we do with Hilly? Is she up to this yet? And they ask the same thing, like, how's Hillary's training going? So,
and
fortunately, I don't think everyone has access to that level of coordination in their rehab team. But as you're recovering from injury, I think making sure that you're communicating with your coaches, with your doctors, with your PTs about your goals and stuff is huge.
But even that, I think not necessarily that, I was fortunate enough to have a team of experts, but I also think it was my own perspective of just like, I wanted to be active in my recovery and like do something every day that was like, that I felt that was bringing me closer to my goal of running again. And
well, I think that's a key thing. Like a lot of people, you get hurt and it's like a woe is me. You go into a deep, dark place. And even though you had some dark moments, like,
oh yeah,
we shared a lot of tears.
Yes, we did.
But like that motivated you to work. And I think, at one point, I forget what set you off, but you were in a bit of a dark state. And we're just talking about how like how much work you were putting in. And like, you were in the gym twice a day for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
You're riding a bike, whether you're doing your PT exercises, doing recovery mobility. You put in like recovery for you was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a testament to you as an athlete as being kind of stubborn and hard-headed and unwilling to give up. But it also shows that like, if you're willing to put in the time and put in the work and get through those dark moments, like you can return to a pretty high level of activity and performance. I've told you this before, but now I'll tell the listening audience. But like Hillary trains a higher volume than probably any other runner I've ever worked with, in terms of total hours. She'll put in, 80 to 100 miles a week, which is, a pretty decent week given that she's running some high vert terrain. But then Hillary also spends, 3 to 5 hours, in the gym working on strength and correcting any imbalances. A couple hours a week on the bike, a couple hours a week on skis this time of year. So Hillary does a lot. She works really hard.
Yeah. And it's not always easy. Like it definitely obviously is a full-time job, but, like, I don't actually think I discovered this part of, because I definitely wasn't doing that before the injury. And I think actually the injury just kind of forced me that, okay, like, you can't always run. And like I was doing these like sky running series where like my season was really intense and it was like 3 months out of the year and I'd race these like, 6 races in like 3 months or something. And my training had always been like, big adventure days, like a lot of time on feet, you cover maybe do these 6 to 8 hour kind of run, hike, adventure things. Like I loved that. That was my bread and butter. So I always I knew that I had like super long endurance, but it wasn't until after the accident where I was kind of forced to like, look, you can't run. Like I wasn't running for a good, 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah, probably. Because we started, I think your first run must have been January or February, because I brought Cordelia in the stroller and she cried. And we did like a run walk.
Oh my God, didn't I cry? I cried.
You cried too, but Cordelia cried louder.
Yeah, Cordelia was like stranger danger. I was like,
like a year old. Not even.
Yeah,
I think, for you.
That was my first run. Yeah, that was like a run. Like literally, we were only running for like a year. Yeah, a minute. And I remember how painful it was because I had this like ligament fracture in my foot, and it was just like it was like running on pins. Like I couldn't feel my foot. I didn't know what to do. Like I think I just burst into tears after the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. I remember it well. But at that point, luckily we had the knowledge from the PT. Like Matt had told us, okay, this and this might hurt, but that's okay. They just need to loosen up. So we were able to get through that. But I think the rehab process for you helped to kind of discover some other passions and ignite some other endeavors. Like I'm sure people know that you've kind of taken to gravel biking now and have done some kind of ultra long events on the gravel bike.
But even before that, because actually that wasn't even until my second injury. That
was the backup injury.
Yeah. So even before that, I was like, literally before I could run, I was skiing. I was doing like ski randonnée or like, basically skin up the mountain. I like to call it ski area mountaineering because I am not going to rappel off of anything.
No off-piste descending for you?
No.
Yeah. I mean, luckily kind of for you, the ski boots kind of worked well to have your foot in a nice rigid sole, and it gave you an opportunity to get outside in the mountains and in the winter and get that fresh air when otherwise you were stuck in the gym.
Yeah. And then like fast forward, then after I, we can talk about it too, but like, because there's some good tidbits in there of like returning to running again. But like when I broke my ankle this last year, almost a year ago, actually,
almost a year, like to the day.
Yeah. I think it was like the 26th of January or something.
That's creepy.
Yeah. But yeah, a year ago I broke my ankle and literally I had to be not weight bearing. I had to have surgery. I hit a pretty low spot again, but then
it was the 24th.
24th. Oh God, it's coming up. Yeah.
Cornelia's birthday.
Oh, great. But then that's when I discovered gravel biking. Yeah. And like, that was, I really had to lean into another sport because like, for me, movement is so important. Like I always say my favorite way to move and train is running and trail running, but there's also some other really cool ways to move and to train and get around. And I chose gravel biking because you don't have to be on the road, but it's really cool because in Colorado, we have tons and tons and tons of gravel roads. And then I started linking up, when I could run again, I started linking up like bike to run to bike home. And it's like the coolest thing. And then, I discovered these like ultra long gravel bike rides, like Dirty Kansas. It was a 200-mile gravel bike race in Kansas. And it's technical, super technical. People were doing it on a mountain bike. And it actually has, there's some really steep sections on it too. You wouldn't think, but that was my first bike race. And like, I fell in love with this other sport.
Going from 0 to 200 miles on the bike.
Yeah. But, but like, again, it was like something that I could like really work hard at and like actually learn. You can get pretty fit on a bike. And the coolest thing is that now, like I can break up my year with when I want to do gravel races or even break up my week of like, okay, like when do I feel like I need a little bit of a break from running? I'm going to like, go on a bike adventure or, go on a ski adventure in the wintertime. It really helps me to like, to break it up mentally, but also I think like stay strong.
Absolutely. I think, kind of like we've talked about before, for you, if running is the cake, then biking and skiing and strength are like the icing on the cake. And then we were talking earlier about we're just starting to start workouts in Hillary's training, like hill repeats and fartlek stuff, trying to get a little faster running. And those are the cherries on top of the cake. But for me, the cake is the most important part.
Yeah. And I think I'm a complicated, very many layered cake.
Yeah, it's okay. I like layered cakes.
Yeah, me too. But I think actually this is what I've learned from you too, because when I first met you, back in Dayton, Wyoming, I was such a noob. Like I had no idea. And you taught me what it was to be like super goal oriented and like make goals for yourself and have like a plan to be able to like attack them and to be able to achieve them. And something that I've learned from you too is like, this is essential for having a coach is I don't come from a running background. So I didn't even know like about workouts. Of course I'm a coach too. So like, I know how to prescribe workouts and like what to do, but it's different. Like when it's me, like as an athlete, and it's easier if I have someone else saying like, okay, like we're preparing you for this race. Like, let's do these workouts here.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too. Like, yes, I've been coaching for 10 plus years, but I also have a coach. Like I work with another CTS coach, Corinne Malcolm, who I also coach. But I think sometimes the coach often isn't the motivator. Like you don't need motivation. You don't need me to tell you to go out and run. And I think my coaching, I don't necessarily work best with athletes that need someone to just tell them to go out and run. My preferred coach athlete interaction is I prescribe workouts assuming the optimal. Like if everything goes well, like these are the workouts you do, and if something comes up, then we can change things. But it's more about, okay, you're going to run. Well, if we're talking about Hillary, you're going to run like 2 to 5 hours a day. To your own basis. So my job is to steer that energy and to put it into the right places. Whether that's running and biking or running and skiing or doing a hard workout. So like my a coach, at least like the relationship we have is more about guiding and steering your energy towards what I think are the right directions. And that's based on kind of your goals and what races and events you have on the agenda.
Yeah. Oh man. So I was actually talking on my run this morning with the friend for when he joined me for the first part, but about this article that you wrote because it always sticks with me. And I'm always going to botch it up, but it was about the 3 different types of like limiting factors for an athlete. It's like time, energy,
and structure.
Yeah, so talk to me about that a little bit.
That's fun. I don't know. That article, it came to me on a run, actually. I was like out running and thinking. But yeah, I think for most athletes, or maybe all athletes, fit into one of these 3 categories or maybe multiple. But many athletes are structurally limited. Like, often your newer runners or your runners returning from injury or something, maybe you only have, 6 hours of running in a week that you can do before your body breaks down. Over time with training, like that can go up. Whether you do a good job of your return to run program, maybe your structures adapt and you can then run, 7 hours a week, 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week. That's often a long, slow process. Things like strength work and cycling, what some people might call cross training, but people from a Nordic skiing background just call training. Like those non-running activities can help to support the amount of running that you can do in the long term. So there's your structurally limited athletes. Then there's your time limited athletes. This is most of your adults, your working professionals, people with kids, families, whatnot. They might have 6 hours a week to train. And getting 7 hours a week is just not possible without causing undue stress in other areas. And these are people like, okay, so if you have 6 hours to train and you want to be a runner and you're structurally able to run 6 hours a week, then you probably should spend most of your time running. That's where specificity is key. Whereas like, if you have 6 hours a week to train and structurally you can only run 4 hours, well, that's where 2 hours of additional training, whether strength work or bike or ski or whatever, is beneficial. And then the third type of athlete or limiter would be energy limited. And that's like you. That's the professional athlete or the athlete who has maybe the super flexible job where they can do whatever is needed to attain high performance or the best results. And with these athletes, it's almost trickier. Like a time limited athlete or a structurally limited athlete are simpler than the energy limited athlete. Because the energy limited athlete, we're like, okay, we want to have the right balance of specificity. So, for Hillary, we want to have enough running. But then, she probably has more time and more energy than she could just run. Hillary typically trains anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week. I don't think many people can sustain 20 to 30 hours of running a week.
And I certainly couldn't at like the beginning. I think, and I do that like maybe it's mostly running in the summertime, but I think, you tell me, what is mostly my average run time per week?
Well, there's been some weeks like when you did, a soft UTMB, soft TDS last year, where you're running 30 hours a week. But those are essentially training camps. But your typical, I'm just pulling up some data here. In the last year, 43% of your training volume has been on the bike, just in terms of hours. Now that being said, much of that's, just kind of easy spins, recovery spins, endurance rides. So you're putting in a large volume of running, but you're also supplementing with a large volume of cycling. Skiing is a smaller volume. Strength is a smaller volume, but still pretty significant. On the overall.
But I think it's really cool because this is actually something that we wanted to talk about. It was a question that I posed to you because I think that, at least in my experience, and what I've learned about myself as an athlete the past 2 years is that this volume, it seems like it's a lot, and it is a lot, but my ability to perform well as a runner, I think, is improved because I do these other things. And it talks about, like you mentioned, with a time crunched athlete. Like, okay, if they're training for a running race, they only have 6 hours a week. I would not suggest they spend 50% of that time on a bike. Like, there is something to be said about running specificity. But yeah, like, what's your opinion about like a runner? Should they only run all the time, especially if they're an ultra runner?
Yeah, like you said, I think specificity is important for the time limited athlete, but I think non-running activities can supplement running. So for you, you're typically running 10 to 15 hours a week, which is a lot. And there are like many runners who are quite competitive on 10 to 15 hours of running a week. But you have the energy and the desire and the drive to do more, and to have those other activities. Could you run 20 to 25 hours a week? Probably. Maybe not as sustainably as we have, as we've done by including these other activities. But I think for you also, just being outdoors and movement is important. And knowing that there's a psychological aspect to, athletes and coach athlete, and you're kind of a mover. If you were only running 15 hours a week, I think you'd go stir crazy. Because it's just not enough outside time for you.
Yeah, that's true. We've definitely had those, like every now and again we'll touch base and like, Adam, am I doing enough? Like, what's going on?
And then we have days where you say, hey, can I skip my day off tomorrow and go cross-country skiing?
Oh, wait, did I just say that? Yeah, that's what I asked you before this call.
What did I say?
You said, yeah, rest day for you is, probably, it's maybe an hour and a half of, low activity. And yeah, you told me to, not run or bike, but
you listen. I think
part of it, that could be an off day. And for me, actually, I noticed like on those days where I'm feeling like running can be, especially on the trail, like it can beat you up, like especially with all the injuries I've had, like I can notice if my foot is still like sensitive or get sore, my ankles. And it can be really nice to be able to spin on the bike, like even after a long run, like my legs feel so much better, or just take a day completely off running and just like, go on a nice bike ride. And it can be refreshing both physically, but like mentally too.
Yeah. I think Hillary suffers from what we term rest day depression. And sometimes I'll get like texts from Hillary that she's just clearly in a very bad mood. And I can look at her training log and be like, yep, she's taking today off. But for some athletes, particularly elite athletes, a rest day doesn't necessarily mean a day off. It's good to have, like, some athletes need and crave a day completely off, like with no training at all. But for other athletes, the stress of doing nothing can be greater than the stress of going out for a 45-minute bike ride, or for Hillary going out for a ski, because there's more to exercise than just the physiological strain. There's the social component. If you're going for an easy bike ride with friends, that's not particularly physiologically taxing, then that's probably okay for an easy day or a rest day. If it starts getting 2, 3, 4, 5+ hours, yeah, that's a little long. Count for a rest day. But yeah, short, easy activities are totally okay on rest days.
And yeah, it's funny because I definitely obviously have noticed that. Like, we've talked about this thing about what are other things you can, that I'm a very busy person, so I like to be doing things. So how I can do things and like but still have like a restful day. And yeah. I think in my training, it works better, especially in longer blocks, if it's having a rest day every 2 weeks or every 10 days, like a complete day off.
I think it's also important there too, like, we talk a lot. And like, if there's, talk or text or whatever, because you're 8 hours ahead. But, if there's, a day where it seems really clear, like, hey, you really need to do nothing today, then we can communicate that versus, hey, I'm a little tired, but I want to go do this. And if you still have the motivation to want to go do something, then I don't think it's always the coach's best interest to just say no and put your foot down. That's not the coach-athlete relationship that I.
Yeah, although sometimes you do have to put your foot down with me and tell me it's going to be okay.
If you're trying to do something that I think will be contrary to your best interest, I'll put my foot down.
Yeah.
But if it's like a 6 one way, half dozen the other, if it doesn't matter, it's not worth fighting. I've learned that from parenting.
Oh yeah. I guess coach athlete relationships, it can kind of be like that. No,
it's a lot like that. Whether you're coaching adults or teenagers or parenting, adults. There's a crossover.
But another one of my favorite things with you, we've just like, I think it's so cool because I just communicate really well with you. I can be like super honest. I can like tell you exactly how I'm feeling, even if it's like very direct and like, I can kind of be a jerk sometimes.
Hillary is often quite blunt.
I know. I think it's sometimes I end up getting in trouble because I tell the truth and people like get offended or something. I'm like, no, I'm just like telling you. Like,
I don't know about getting in trouble. Sometimes you might come across a little harsh.
Yeah. But yeah, so coming off across a little harsh. So one of my favorite memories of with you is when I paced you in Hardrock. This is what's so cool because I feel like I wanted to like return the favor to like, coaching you. Oh yes, you're showing me the medal for the Hardrock finishing. Was I too much of a hard ass in Hardrock?
No, you're perfect.
Yeah, I got to pace you up over Handy's Peak. For those of you who don't know, Hardrock, it's a 14er that's for this direction we were going was about 60 miles into the race.
It's been 60 miles in, give or take.
Yeah.
It was like in the morning.
Yeah.
Fueled entirely with cheese quesadillas.
Yep. And it was a clear, like perfectly clear, zero wind. You could see the moon. It was such a beautiful night. But like it's so cool because I think like obviously running and training it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, but out of it have come some of like the most important relationships in my entire life. And yeah, you're one of them. And I think that it's really cool if you can like this coach athlete relationship like opens that up to people.
Hillary's a great pacer. But I think she might have pushed me a little too much, because then I blew up for my next pacer and he had to put up with some whining. Sorry, not.
No, I think we were just like bantering the whole way up. We were talking about, I don't even know, like probably science. What?
It was gorgeous. It was magical. I look forward to crewing you at UTMB this year.
Yeah. And I get to follow you around at TDS this year because you're in that.
It's going to be a fun last week in August in Chamonix.
Oh gosh, it's going to be so great. But a question I wanted to ask you too, what we talked about this beforehand. So what's the most important aspect in a coach-athlete relationship?
Yeah, I think we kind of alluded to it already, but I think communication is probably key. Like I'm not a mind reader, and I don't think you should expect your coach to be. It's not fair. Not many people are.
Yeah.
I think we've been lucky that we've had a lot of in-person time, like when you're in Boulder and we'd go on our 5 a.m. runs. And in person it's easier to get a read on how an athlete's doing and how they're feeling and how the training's going in person. But with phone and email and GPS data, reliably, text messages, whatever form of communication, Facebook Messenger, a million different ways to communicate. Whatever's the easy.
Wait, snail mail. I can send you a letter.
I think you might have sent me a card once.
I did, yeah. I think it was when I was injured, just because I couldn't drive and like I needed some.
Yeah, but I mean communication, because like if I don't know how your training is going, how can I, plan out the best training possible? Is key. And similarly, from the athlete perspective, like if you have more time or you are tired or your workouts just aren't doing it for you, that's important to communicate back. And it's better to communicate that early than to get all bitter towards each other for 2 months and then have a battle.
But which is good. We definitely don't do that. But and this is what's also so cool is like I'm a coach with CTS. I have many athletes that I coach. You coach with CTS and you are my coach, and you also have a coach who is a CTS coach.
Yeah, I think we've got to really. I mean, I used to coach independently. I had my own company, and I did that for about 2 years, and then I got kind of lonely. It's hard to be a lone wolf coach. And being a part of the CTS Ultra team, with Coop and at that time Johnny Fitzgerald was there, and then we've brought on a bunch of other coaches, Corinne, you, Duncan, Darcy. I should list everybody now.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll feel bad if I forget anyone. We've got I think there's 9 of us now, and it's just a great resource of coaches where we can bounce ideas off each other. We can share information and best practices. We can kind of synthesize the latest research, so that we're all kind of up to date on nutrition fads and shoe science and whatever else. So it's really cool to be a part of a team and a part of a group. And like you said, like I coach Hillary. Hillary's a coach. I coach Corinne. Corinne coaches me. Corinne coaches other people. It's sort of this weird incestuous thing, but I think it shows how much I respect the coaches I work with, that I would ask one of them to coach me. I think I'm a particularly difficult athlete to coach, and maybe Corinne could refute or support that assertion. But she puts up.
I don't think you are. I sometimes think that I'm a difficult athlete to coach, but no, it's all about the communication and things like that. But I also think it's like it attests that like there's this buy-in that you believe in coaching and like what it can bring to an athlete. And I think it's also like a little mini team, like your support system that can help you like get through these these tough races. Yeah.
And I mean, like whether it's coaches or whether you have a social group, like every every Tuesday I meet up with some friends, some of whom I also happen to coach, and we go for a run, our Tuesday shred.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of the week. There's, if you have your local group run that you love to going to, a lot of my start in running was just, in Boulder, we have the Boulder Trail Runners, and they have, 4 or 5 group runs a week. I just started going to some, learning the trails, meeting other people. And then you'd find, this guy's about my pace. And then you invite each other on, a long weekend adventure. And that's how you become a part of a running community. You make friends, you learn. And for me as a coach, a big part of it is trying to educate, people like, this is how training works. You could, probably figure it out yourself, but I'm going to try to make it easy for you. And then I'm going to try to make it, better than you could do on your own.
I love that. And what is your best advice for, someone who's looking for a coach, or even who wants to kind of start this coach athlete relationship, or, someone that's speaking to you if they want to work with you?
I think, talking to a few coaches is a good thing. I also think it's good, don't try a coach, and if it's not working, it's okay to leave. It's kind of like dating, right? Go on a couple dates, use your match.com or whatever. Try it out. If it doesn't work, don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
That being said, it's also key to give it a good shot. If you start working with a coach, try to be really compliant in the first month and communicate and do the workouts and see if you get better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, talk about it. And if the coach doesn't seem to be able to change that, then maybe it's time to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's my
I love that. Oh my gosh. And yeah, Adam, you've experienced, especially since, I was living in Boulder, and we've talked many a time about everything from dating to workouts. You're very involved in my life.
Yeah. I probably know more about Hillary than many people.
You do. Like I said, we're really tight. Oh man, let's not be shared on this. But
yeah,
all right.
For the After Hours podcast.
The After Hours. Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you so much for speaking with me. It's obviously, we talk all the time, but thank you for putting this knowledge out into the world. And I just admire you as a coach, as a friend, as a mentor, and yeah, you're the best.
Well, I think, we've got a pretty special relationship, Hilly. It's one I value a lot. And I'm thankful to have a number of athletes that I've coached for years now, and have really, seen blossom as runners and athletes. So you're one of them. And we'll keep aspiring towards big things. We got some big goals for the summer.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to have you there with me. Well, okay. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'll speak to you soon. But yeah, if anyone has anything they want to look up about Adam, I'll post it at the end of the show, and you guys look up Adam St Pierre. He's a great human and a great coach.
Okay. Thanks, Hilly.
Thanks.